All right, we'll wait 3 minutes.
Oh, we did have a great joke.
Yes. We're prepared. Hold on, let's see if I can pull it. Aha. Fantastic. What weighs more, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane? It's more that joke, not so much.
What weighs more?
What weighs more? Yes.
You gonna say water?
Yes, and why? Because butane is lighter fluid.
Haha.
Amazing. It should be like a gallon of nitrogen or some favorite gaseous substance. All right. 2 more minutes of stalling. Yes, congrats, Max. Streaming MLB playoff game.
That was huge.
That's amazing. We do need to get better coverage so that everybody could be streaming at the same time.
The pixelation he thinks was from Twitter,
Oh, really?
not Pollen. So he's
Love
trying to do it on Twitch. But
Amazing. Yes.
You could-
You would think you could stream from a phone on Twitch, but it's surprisingly difficult. It's like, what are you guys doing? This is the future, guys. And like, there's all this like home setup and laptop
They
recording.
do some crazy stuff with the Twitch setups. I see like people, they have like a gaming computer, their Twitch computer.
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff.
Yes, the Twitch is the jam. Okay, we do need lobby music. Something good old download.com. Ooh, let's figure out how to. That's like beyond my skill level of Discord here. Lobby music sounds great. Okay, agenda. And let's wait till 2 more minutes. 5:05. Maybe 5:04. This will start. Amazing. Yeah, the Periscope and what was Meerkat? No, what was the other one it was called? Vine.
Oh, Vine.
Periscope was the Meerkat icon. Yeah. That's right. And little did they know that TikTok was around the corner and would ruin everything for everyone, including the youth. Well, that's what I'm referring to. As civilization.
Yeah.
Original thinking.
The youths.
Hopefully, it's not too many TikTok fans on here. I love it. Okay, all right, let's get started. This is great. So, agenda for today, we will invite Andrew up, who's going to give an update on the Pollen Grads program. We're talking about Blink dropping at the end of the month, talking about buy-sells firmware updates, talking about handoffs, talking about tokenomics changes, prepping for open sourcing, Moso Flower, Kerfuffle, and Halloween on Thursday the 27th. And then obviously Q&A, but send them in as you guys see fit or have questions or whatnot. All right, so I'm going to jump in here. Is Andrew? Yes, Andrew, thank you. Black. Oh. Fuck. Stupid. All right.
Any reason you're inserting the data back?
Yes. All right. Welcome, Andrew. We'll start off with you on Pollen Grants program status update.
How are you doing today, guys? All right, so yeah, so on the Pollen Grants program, we actually received, towards the end of it, we received up to 22 grants through the grants program. I've met with most applicants. We've gone through almost all of them except for, I think I have 2 more meetings left. And then we should be having our first emails sent out by Friday this week to request any grants that we're interested in, to submit a full application. And then it's gonna be interesting. We've got some really amazing ideas, and I think that we're gonna try to get the community involved a bit in the grant process by hosting some sort of pitch day with the committee to allow some feedback on some of these. So it should be really interesting to get done. But so yeah, any grantees that have applied, please look for an email this weekend. I think that's pretty much it here from here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the update. Next up, talking about Blink, adding new vendor, doing a bunch of things differently. These will be all greenhouse powered. The drop will be at the end of the month. We have a handful deployed already for a couple weeks. We've been doing testing on them. Pretty excited about range, speed. We're targeting 7,200 or 7,199 for the moonflower, which looks like a little half moon. It's a 180-degree coverage, 3 cells, high power. We think the hex limits are going to be 30 on that. We are targeting the sun at 3999, so 4,000, and targeting the hex, which is a 360 on 3 cells, a little lower power, so that we think that the range, the hex limits are going to be 16. On the speed test that we've done, what's our best one so far? Almost 200.
Between 60 and 200, depending on where you are.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty cool. The exact date of the drop is CBD still, right, Christian?
Yes, correct.
All right. So that's that on Blink. Jump in the chat here. So if there's any questions on that. No, there's no question. Okay. So greenhouse has an external power box, stand, and all the usual jazz. It is not power over Ethernet. They require an AC outlet and Ethernet and a power cable to run to the location. Let's talk about BiCells firmware updates. Our friends at BiCells have been, or BaseCells, we'll have to figure out which one that is, and we'll go half and half. Have been working hard. We've been testing different release candidates. I think the last one is good for the deadlines, but Oscar, turning into you,
So we'll have a update coming soon that will fix the 1 IP requirement for the greenhouse dandelions. There will be another update following up to fix other things, but I think that's the most important one to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah, so we think we have 2-step updates. One that fixes the
IP requirement,
IPsec tunnel issue, and then there's still more bugs that we are getting them to address, including there's a max speed cap and
a few other things.
Bit error rates and stuff like that we want to get fixed there.
But the main one is that you'll be able to get multiple dandelions greenhouse on the same router.
Yeah,
and that should make that more flexible.
That
will also trickle down to the buttercups.
Yes, but the buttercups still have an issue right now.
Yeah,
per our testing last night. Yeah, but they're getting close. It works. It just has a issue every 40 minutes when it disconnects, and no way now. So, and this will also potentially then pave the way for elder flowers going to greenhouse and being updated through that. So that's, I think, is there anything else on the BiCells update?
No. Hopefully we can release it within the next 2 weeks.
Release within the next 2 weeks. Okay.
To everyone.
Okay. And they will need to do, what's the process for the updates? Will magically happen, or is it going to be
I think it'll magically happen in groups. So we'll be announcing.
We'll batch them and go for it. Okay, cool. Yes, so back to Max and the question on Blink. The Blinks don't take AC all the way to the unit. They take AC to a power box similar to a Buttercup, and then they have a DC 48-volt dedicated, 16 gauge or maybe thinner for blink wire that just delivers power, as well as an Ethernet cable that connects that up. Other question is, how many radios blink for sale? 6.
Yes.
No,
TBD.
more than that. Still TBD. Okay. It seems Poly is already struggling to support their existing customer base, and now it is going to grow. Yeah, I want to hear more about the customer base questions, but the objective is getting the network up and running, and we think that links are going to be great for filling that, and they're good to support and go from there. So, love a clarification on your question there, Mitchell or Michelle. Handoffs. So we've been working on tuning handoffs. We've been testing between only bicells units right now. We'll be adding obviously MOSO and Blink to it next. And so, did we talk about? Yeah, we did talk about the hex limits in the thing there. So maybe you can chime in on that in the chat, Christian.
Oh, somebody asked a question.
Yeah. So somebody missed the number. So yeah. So handoffs. So we have handoffs working between different base cells, flowers. We are tuning the configuration of that. That's kind of a key because you don't want them popping back and forth. This will help greatly in smoothing out, when your bumblebee is going from one to the flower to the next. Right now it's hanging on one flower longer. It is not jumping quickly to the next flower based on the signal strength. It's also going to be something that's required for, good network traffic and usage in places where we're covering. So that's a key thing that we need to do. We are going to be supporting this across different flowers, also different flower types. We still need to figure out how we're going to do this with the carrier handoffs at some point, because that's going to be a little bit more tricky in terms of integration with their cores there. So that's the touch base on the handoffs. I'll take a question. We talked about the hex limits. Are you expecting any additional releases of previous flowers? I think the answer is yeah.
Of course.
Are they going to be at the same time? I think we're going to do just a blink drop initially.
Yeah.
And then as we get more of the additional flower supplies, we can start.
We're very overdue for like another buttercup drop. Elderflower. All by cells, actually.
Yeah. And I think we want to revisit the MOSO post our chat here, because I think there's a lot of potential on the outdoor and indoor ones there. Okay. Do you think that there will be a lot of cell pressure when 1 billion PCN are distributed via the pollen grants, or 1 million PCN, which will be well, so we don't talk about trading, because the whole point here is we want you using the PCN. The PCN by according to the white paper right now has a default value of 0, because we haven't launched the data credits yet. So I don't understand why there would be cell pressure. Right now it's about deploying the network. So the objective of having the grants program is for people to build tools that create valuable aspects for the community to benefit from the technology that you guys are creating on top of what we're building. All right. So I'm not going to talk about any of the trading stuff, because that's not what we're doing. Last meeting, there was a talk about staking PCN to unlock additional hexes beyond that flower standard capacity. Any further plans on that? Yes, that's part of our next topic. Great segue. Tokenomic updates or changes. So, since we're evolving the project, and we want to make sure we grow the network as smoothly and efficiently as possible, we think that we want to reward more the great flower locations from the good flower locations. And we think that there's going to be ability to increase your hex limits with a staking mechanism on some of the flowers that we think are legitimately getting more coverage than we were anticipating. And therefore doing that. So there's a smart contract piece on that we need to build out and deploy. But that's definitely something that we think is coming to the tokenomics changes. We also are thinking heavily about continuous, operation and updating of the chain. So instead of doing like a once a day, that might be on a continuous basis. And we're also thinking about doing a weekly schedule for validations versus doing a daily schedule for validations, because we can rely more on a stable flower that's being up and using the uptime and signal from the flower to say that it hasn't moved and confirm that the validation is there. And I know that's going to be hopefully decreasing the cost and effort required to validate the flowers that you guys are deploying. So we think that's an important big change. Let me catch up on questions. Talked about staking. Okay, I was wondering if you could talk about the actual mechanisms for BB anti-gaming swarming and what's actually currently in practice, as I'm confused with how this works. We could do this on the side conversation, but effectively we have signatures that we look for behaviors in BBs that are not acting organically. You could be jumping locations. You could be having fake GPS spoofing. You could be having flowers that are moving. And so the objective here is we want to have it where it's a reliable network. So if you're covering a hex that has, you can imagine, let's say there's 25 BBs that go there in a day and only one of them gets coverage from there, you're probably not providing coverage to that hex, especially after we can do the handoffs, because then there'd be no reason for why you weren't able to connect there. So again, the objective here, this is not a crypto project. This is a network development project that happens to be using crypto as a form of micropayments and incentives for the deployments. That's kind of like a short answer to your question, I think. Okay, so cool, good news. I have a few Mosos that get beyond 12. Awesome. Okay, all of them goes green. I don't understand what's up with that, but
Fewer validation notes.
oh, I like it. Genius, Max. Thank you. Although everybody should be biking around for doing this and getting their exercise. Anyway, okay. Will the weekly validation be set day? What's the fix for if someone's flower goes down that day or stuff like? Okay, so it's the aggregation of the validations over the whole week. So it's not like bingo Tuesday or whatever random day that gets picked. It is you need to do it once a week, and then the flower will have an uptime where the flower needs to be up a certain percentage. So if your flower is down for a full day, then you have a problem, and we should figure out how to scale down the earnings for that week because of that. So they'll be more stringent on the uptime requirements as a result of this. We may also offer different rewards for greenhouse versus non-greenhouse flowers, but we will do that after there's a process for upgrading all the non-greenhouse units to greenhouses. And then we think there's going to be some sort of continuity bonus for having continuous coverage across multiple hexes, across multiple flowers, and incentivizing a true network coverage.
I would say like that could come in tandem with the handover one, right? Handoff one.
Yeah, it's not clear that these are all happening at the same time. These are the changes coming, and we want to kind of solicit the idea. I think everybody likes the weekly, and people probably like the idea of staking to get more coverage. So those are the kind of the thoughts there. Loot boxes. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So we haven't opened those up, but we think that that's going to be something that's, baked in, and we could do that once we choose to spend the engineering effort to unlock that. I think that's the
I
Yeah,
was gonna say uptime requirements were what we had in mind for like limiting the number of people that get that reward, because we wanted the uptime to be strictly high in order to get loot boxes and to get bounty rewards. I think we have a solution to check uptime now. So if we go, I think if we go to a week, right now it's a day, but if we go to a week and we set an uptime requirement over a week, I think that's pretty fair. It could be something like 20%, or sorry, it could be something like 80% or 90% of the time.
I think it needs to be higher than 80%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have some leeway initially, and that will get tighter as things go over time. Yeah.
Right, agreed. But I think that it makes more sense to do that once we move to a week than it does to do it now.
Yeah, that's not a loot box update though.
No, but we've made the loot boxes in the past predicated on the
Oh,
uptime
sure.
requirement.
You're saying the loot boxes are likely to come after the uptime requirement is engaged or is kicked in for the weekly flavor of the
Yeah.
validations.
That's what I'm thinking right now. I think what we found was the uptime requirement for daily was a little too stringent, but maybe we want to reinstitute that now.
I know, it should be 5 nines, right? So you get a couple seconds every day to drop. But I mean, that's the goal objectively. Obviously, we're not there now.
Yeah.
What we want to get now is the deployment and density for a certain usable network.
Yeah, and the other kind of factor that we were weighing was we didn't have great visibility into the customer didn't have great visibility into whether the flower was working or not. And now with the botanist, we've changed that, right? So now
the visibility is key. It was tricky to penalize for uptime when you didn't have a way to monitor and get that. So we want to get that and have that be live and updated, so you can see like, oh, I'm down now. What's going on? Oh, snap! My power supply,
right,
got unplugged. I gotta fix it. And
so I think all of those will come in tandem, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be like the botanist will be more refined with better updates, with better statuses, which would mean then you have more feedback. We're going to switch to a week to make it less draconian. Once all of that is together, then the uptime requirement becomes a hard limit, a hard requirement.
Yeah.
And then the loot boxes get turned on.
Okay, I like that. That's a good plan. Yeah. Next is, can we do community funded loot boxes to incentivize coverage? I love that. I've had multiple people ask me that. We don't have that functionality in yet, but we could do that as part of a staking unlock or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a good.
That actually could be a really cool staking mechanism if we can figure out how to reward both the person and the staker.
We were staking per flower now, and I think this could be something where you can stake per hex and be like, I will provide coverage here in exchange for to earn the piece that you're placing here to get coverage, right? So I have some areas where I'm like, I would really like to get coverage here. Honeybee logs is one, so you can drop pollen and then you build up the value of that hex. We need to start unlocking that and getting that through, which is what you just talked about.
Yep.
The next thing is like, what if somebody's like, it's great that we have it here, but like, here's a place that's actually 10x valuable because I don't have other network alternatives here. I'll just pay money to get service here, and so we want to find a way to like funnel that allow that to happen, right? Because that's the use case that we kind of started on here, right? Some of the deployments here they're at, and where pollen is used mostly is where it's exclusively the only network alternative, and there it's like super valuable. And when it's down, like you find out about it really quick. So I think that's a good way of finding a way for the community to have that functionality built in, so that they can have and receive PCN for the coverage that they're providing somewhere. It's a greater value there. So that's a really good point, Jay Halla. So definitely thinking about doing that. Okay, all right, BB follow-up. How often are firmware updates pushed out, and how often should I be plugging it in for updates? Ask about iTag Gaming because BB has crazy GPS scattering when it's indoors. Yeah, so we're overdue for BB firmware upgrades in terms of faster boot and things like this. Do you want to talk about that, Oscar?
What is it? So we haven't been putting much love on the BBs. We're trying to resolve all the flower issues first, so that one pops the priority usually down. But now that we're resolving the dandelion issues, the next issue we'll resolve is the mosa flower speed for you guys. Then after, we'll probably push an update for the BBs.
That makes sense.
I've been working on stuff, but it's not fully realized to push an update.
Yeah. So, agreed on the BB GPS scattering. That's a thing that we need to address. There's a couple solutions coming with that. So I would say we should announce the firmware updates so that there's no need to like hope that one is coming and like plug it in assuming it's going to come. Be a schedule. It'll be I think announced like the week before. And if you don't have it that day, you'll still get it the next day. So it's not like urgent for having it there. Okay, great. So next is our blink's going to be to a point where we get to the POE. Not these, the next ones maybe, but that's a question for Blink, and I don't want to, talk for them on that.
They're gonna have 50-foot cables, the DC runs.
Well, you can DC run however long you want. I mean, like not. Sorry, let me back up. There's a limit to the DC cable run, but you can always extend or shrink that. I think his question, you're running 2 cables at the same time versus, and you have a power box, which is, I know is big, and we'll have an upgrade to the power box to be smaller and sleek and more pleasing to the folks that we got feedback from that our power box is too big for that.
Is that right, Colt? Is it getting the 120 up to the roof that's expensive? And does having a longer DC run from the...
Yeah, so the power box, by having a 50-foot length, doesn't need to be on the roof, or doesn't need to be that close to it. It needs to be like close-ish, but not in the same way that it needs to be for the other flowers. Blinks are going to be all greenhouse powered. I still hear it has a one from Switch Premium installation. Okay, yep. Will weekly validation means less flowers, less rewards for flowers or BBs? We don't think that there'll be tokenomics changes in terms of the emissions that we're causing now. I think the idea here is to have the emission schedule be on a weekly pace, but at the same rate. And it might change the reshuffling because you might have more validations per flower because the validations that you're doing is for a week's worth of stuff. So you might be more thorough for it, which I think is a better trade-off. So with that, we should be able to catch cheating cleaner because we expect to have more samples for the same epoch that we're looking at, doing, confirming that they're all working correctly. Yep, 95% is 8.5 hours per week. Thank you, Max. I'll give you +1. Okay, are you all working on real-time flower coverage status? For example, being able to see which hexes I'm currently providing coverage. We are working on that. We're also looking at a couple of things that would be interesting, so you can see which flower you're attached to live, and really trying to empower community tools to go and do more like that. We saw a great demo by Grizzle King, I think. I think it was a slide. Okay, maybe that's I'm pretty sorry. I thought I saw it was public video. It sounds like it might have been a private one, but we have some good stuff coming here. Community based, and we want to encourage people trying that out and giving the just like we love Pollen.Vision, we love people building tools on top of our stuff. Can we get a staking discussion channel? Yes, that's not a question for me. That's absolutely.
Where do you want to
Yeah, that's the best. Technical. Okay. How is hiring coming along? Forestry, Oscar, and Josh could use some helping hands. Yeah, we've had another team member start this week. Last week. And I think the hiring is pretty good. For now, obviously, we are always looking for talented engineers. We have another hardware engineer coming soon as well. So I'd say good.
Still looking to fill roles. but
Yeah.
Come along.
Supports that my Mosa flower would be replaced due to the low speed. Why is the replacement needed if it's just a firmware issue?
Most flowers?
Mosa flower, yeah. I think it's not a replacement needed, but that's I don't know anything and I don't want
I'm not
to
sure.
create somebody's.
Yeah. I need to look at the ticket to make sure. and give you-
Yeah, send us the ticket number and then we can confirm that your information is correct. It might be only a piece of the puzzle. Send to who? Okay, send to Fried G Unit. He loves answering. Support. Okay. Will there be some grace period for onboarding potential extra validation or something? Yeah, I think that the the week of onboarding, you might be exempted from uptime requirements. So that you only have 2 days and a day. You clearly can't meet the full week's worth of stuff. So that might be the easiest way to implement. We'll have to. I mean, again, we're not making this change right away. This is a change that we're thinking. It sounds like everybody likes it, but it is not set in stone yet, and Sri still has to make a couple changes to make that happen.
Well, I think we need more visibility as to what's happening during the week so that they're not waiting on the Explorer to update once a week, right? So we need a separate stream of data to come to the customers during the week so that they understand what their behavior is, and then they'll see their rewards at the end of the week. So we kind of have to design that, and we're thinking through how to do that right now.
So like real time pick accumulation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so that's the tokenomics changes. Weekly validation staking. Next up, open sourcing. So we're going to start, I think, with the open sourcing the hardware. Help people build interface, know which pins do what, and so forth. Then we'll do, I think, open API, so folks can modify and get other stats on it. This is not happening this month, but it might happen by the end of the year. And then from there, we'll add the firmware open sourcing so we can have more eyes on the code and building up there. The goal is to find interesting use cases and build, on the top of Pollen and have, LTE network usage in ways that's open and easy to play with. And we think there's going to be a Pollen flavored open source license, implying that you can use all the changes you want. It's just used for Pollen network devices. Okay, more questions. Zeus has never responded to any of my DMs. We'll have to do lashes for that. I think we need some sort of trust score where a flower covers a hex for X number of days and doesn't move. We can reasonably assume it's covering it, whereas newer flowers still requiring daily validation threshold is it. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That makes sense. There will be mechanics for doing the weekly, from daily to weekly, that it's not trivial. We just think that's probably a good change to. Is it weekly validations or weekly distribution of rewards? I think it's going to be weekly validations and weekly distributions of rewards for the validation chunk of the rewards. We think the attaches might be separate. It might come in separately. We haven't exactly figured out how we're going to split those up, but we think that's a good view because we want to encourage the utilization of the network to be continuous. And so you just go about your day and you would get the attaches. And if you see, let's say 10 flowers over the course of each day for 7 days, that's different than seeing them once from your phone. So the validation from the BB, I think, is the one that's particularly onerous and is targeted specifically for building the validation maps that we have. And so that's where those are the ones that we would go on a weekly schedule. Is that license be exempt for any localized hardware, as in stuff on your own network, to dev against? I think so. I'm not sure. We have to figure that out. I think we'll give you we probably have a comment period on the license before we launch it out to do that. But the objective here is let you build on top of the hardware we have, for your own use or for use on the Pollen network. If you're gonna go take our stuff and make it on other places, that would be not for what the license is intended to provide. Okay, not a huge fan of weekly reward distribution. I'd love to understand a little bit why. Okay, when is the next update for BBs? I think Oscar was talking about we're doing buy sells firmware rollouts, so that's dandelions, and then buttercups, and then we're doing moso flower upgrade, and then the next one after that will be BB freshen up. And so that's a qualitative, not quantitative description of when it will be coming. We don't have
We're getting more manpower to help on the PV, so.
yeah, the manpower, the BBs we know is a critical thing to upgrade and make better. All right, we're good. Okay, sweet. Next. Okay, so next is moso flowers. You want to give an update on that, or what do you want to do?
On the most of flowers.
The moso flower, hang up. So we're still working with the engineers. We're gonna have a report soon. Stephen from Moso is going to join our next community call, so he can address that. Stephen is the Moso COO, and so he can talk about kind of what they're doing to improve the products that we have.
So I guess with the Moso flower has been our test bed to deploy Botanist. So I know there have been a few hiccups along the way. So hopefully the next few releases is going to be more smooth. And then we're working with them to solve some of the IEPS issues that we're seeing come over, and that basically trickles down to you guys not seeing the Pollen mobile connecting. So we'll be working on those bits next week to make sure they get ironed out, and we can have a software update if necessary to fix them. But other than that, I think there was also a discrepancy with the understanding of how much the Moso flowers covered and what you saw on the Explorer. So we'll put it out.
Well, there was also there was a bunch of issues, right? And another one was like the botanist bug, where it said it was down, but it was down.
There's that. There was also an issue with people reporting they weren't seeing the range that they thought they were expecting.
Yeah.
And I think there's a combination of factors that could be in play there. There could be SAS turning you down.
Yeah.
There could be
The way you interpret range is like whether how many hexes you survived that day versus where you got mining rights. So there's a big distinction in the language. It's like, do you get validation far, and how many hexes you got that day? Because some people are seeing less hexes than what they expect, but they got the validation to go further. The mining light on the BBs go further out. So that's more a discrepancy on the data coming to the system rather than the cloud performance.
I see. So you're saying that would be an example of you would have validated a hex, but something happened and you didn't get the logged up or something like that, and therefore you didn't get credit for that hex, and therefore you're like, oh, I'm not getting any coverage, even though you are getting coverage, you're just not getting credit for the coverage. Correct. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of factors there too. I think some people were saying that they were seeing attaches on their eSIMs and not getting credit for them as well. So that's something else that we need to investigate as well on the attach side. We have seen reports of that specifically for the Moso flowers. So yeah, that is something that we'll investigate.
So we see botnets evolving to kind of giving users direct feedback into what's happening, so they can be like, oh, live, my expectation was not met here because I got an attach, but it's not showing up on my botanist view of this. Right? I mean, and just like that's not what we're doing now, but that's what we're evolving.
Yeah, I think the Explorer or whatever the real-time alerting system we develop is going to be that. The botanist is still going to be more like check the status of my current flower. But the botanist could potentially display information like, oh, you connected to these bees in the last hour, or you connected to these honeybees in the last 30 minutes or something like that. I think that kind of information could definitely be ported to the botnet. So that could be a first source of truth, and then we can build in more sophisticated real-time alerting on top of that.
Yeah, because I know that you guys go out there and deploy, and you want to check real time if it's working. So adding like the last video or the last thing that connected could help you validate that it's all working correctly, right?
Unique BD validations are valued too high for the flower. There's an asymmetric distribution of BBs versus flowers in certain cities. I think that might be right. If you're getting a couple hundred attaches from BBs, that might be too high. If you're getting them from devices that are also doing data, that's a different story. I think that we're due for several round of tokenomics, and we want to take a lot of effort to do that to help incentivize the network growth to make sure that we get a stable network that comes out of this. Is it the right Zeus dog? I think so. It's not me, so I can't confirm, but it looks like you have a green check mark from HX. Yeah, so it's probably good. Okay, when will the people that weren't able to get bumblebees during the Moso drop have a chance to buy one? It's been brought up the last 2 meetings. Well, I thought we fixed that.
We haven't redone a bumblebee drop for the Moso folks.
So there are some people that got Moso flowers and Moso bonsai that don't have a BB.
Yeah, because they weren't all sold as bundles. There were some of them that were sold as bundles and some that weren't. So there were a group of people who received those flowers without the bundle.
Yeah, we have that. We can fix that right away before we do the blink drop and get that covered. Yeah, sorry, I thought that was addressed. Thank you, Soldier, for letting me know this. Okay, next up, heated lime. Mosos get 15 plus hexes validated a day, and the BB shows it's mining, but I only get rewarded for 1 to 3 hexes. I only got rewarded for 12 a couple days.
I read your ticket, so I'll respond to you.
All right, heated line. You're in good hands with Oscar here. Here, what about you? Dog nuts. I had multiple days this weekend that I attached with my Moso BBs, and I know I'm more. I know in more than that. Wait. And I know I'm in more than Texas. Well, and I'll get credit for 5 to 7. I think he's saying he has the same problem.
How do you check how you got credit from the CSV or from?
We speak up a little bit, just make sure this is clear.
It seems like it's a similar issue from heated limes that what you're experiencing. So if you submit a ticket and give it to 5G unit, I can respond to you directly.
Oh, amazing. 5G is the new receptacle for all of this.
That's what I have to say about that.
Freak out. Don't freak out on us.
If
You'll
you
survive.
do send me requests, they'll sit in my inbox for a couple days.
You will survive. Okay. HP for Android coming, working on it. We want to do something a little bit different on Android because we can do more. So that's early November kind of thing. So dog, yes. Okay. All right. Slightly pollen related. There was a name drop of it in that Bloomberg articles 100. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. We thought it was going to be 50% pollen, so we kind of feel a little shanked that it wasn't more on that. But Max did a great job on the story, and we thank them for that. Tickets, action. Okay, cool. So we talked about BB for Moso folks. That was a thing that we resolved, but we're not. So we should address that soon. Moso flowers. Okay. Next up is last item. Halloween, Thursday, October 27th. This is in San Francisco. Get your costumes. We'll be celebrating. So over there. What else should we talk about?
What's the custom theme?
The costume. I'll let you Guess.
Dress like your your flower name. Or
The flower name.
Some people have got some amazing ideas for the flowers.
Maybe I think we should have a costume competition with some gear.
I think Amrit has a highly inappropriate one. I'm really looking forward to whether he gets arrested or not.
Well, we don't want any of our community's members being arrested.
No, before he even gets to the bar, like
No, I know. I don't encourage that. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's make it.
it is San Francisco. So
we don't talk about this will be.
Okay, back to real questions. How can we check if our SAS is turned on for Mosos? And if set up in the same location but higher, do I need to do recess? I think the second answer is yes. And the first answer is
We're working on it.
The first. Wait, I thought for the SAS it should be telling you on the botanist when your requirement is on.
It tells you on the botanist when your requirement is on, but he's asking, how do we check if SAS turned us down?
Is that what the question was? Oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
So that to answer that, basically, we are trying to plumb in more SAS info into the botanist so that you get a more
there's visibility. Just basically, you want to see the same
Yeah.
stuff that we're seeing in wine, all the info and mastermind that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're working on that part of it. The second question, Anthony's exactly right. If you change the location of your flower, you have to re-register with the SAS,
Even if it's a height change.
even if it's just a height change. Yeah.
Although I would say I'm not a CPI, so you should consult your local CPI for the proper answer to all your SAS related questions.
Good call.
I can't wait. Stoked to see costumes, guessing game, all the swag. Is gonna be as good as New York. I hope so. I don't know why it wouldn't be. We need to be on an upward trend of keeping things better and more interesting at a time. And it's okay. How much PCN is awarded to the best costume? Okay, we'll have to figure that out. I don't think it's PCN. I think we want to keep the PCN bank available for grants and community programs. Although we could have individuals contribute, their PCN for a pool or something. Anyway. Wait, I didn't say we were going to bail you. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. That was not what I'm saying. 3 days, 420.69. That's amazing. Okay, questions? And we might finish a little bit early. It's like it'd be great.
hopefully people open.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, going once, going twice. Couple more typing. Any updates to data offloading partners? We've been working hard, but nothing to share here. So I spend more time on that than I would expect. So, okay. I actually left my swag at the bar. Too many old fashions.
You know, I'm right.
Yeah. And have radio handoffs started. Radio handoffs have started in the lab on engineering, so we do that on location here. But we have not rolled it out to the other deployments.
And we're only doing buy sell.
We're doing buy sells to buy sells, but we're doing dandelion to elderflower, dandelion to buttercup, and so forth. So I think that will be a major milestone for us to do that. We probably will do a blog post on it, explaining how we're doing it and showing some samples of that to give visibility, because that's the key part. I mean, we're building a real network, and so it's not just individual radios that connect on their own. They need to like talk in hand and do the right stuff that we want to do properly.
And we're also going to have to talk through the tokenomics for rewarding that and how that'll look. So that's we discussed that before, but we still have to figure out what the reward structure is going to be for handoffs.
Yep, that's a key part of, I think, when we do handoffs and we roll them out. I think we want to have that be part of the gamification. On Explore, cumulative honeybee earnings. Can we change the color, different shades of orange, so you can do more? That's not a bad idea. So it's basically a UI update to make it more clear how hot or not some of the honeybees are. Am I required to register my GH deadline with SAS? We'll address that with the CPIs. on the next-
If it's outdoors, you should.
For the GH, there's a firmer limitation to complete the registration
For dandelions.
for a GH. So we're waiting on BISOs to do that.
That's the firmware fix that we're waiting on them for. That's the second step.
But technically, yeah,
Hey,
they should be registered with SAS if they're outside.
Yes.
They qualify.
There's a bug that allows it to, or makes it impossible for that to happen. Right? Can you please clarify the earlier weekly comments regarding your epochs? Are you just changing the payout to weekly, schedule to weekly, or are you changing the hex validation requirements from daily to weekly too? Yeah, so it's actually the other way around. It's like we're thinking of going from daily validation to weekly validation, and it's not a day on the week, it's for in the entire week's worth. So you'll be able to validate more and more thorough, but like you don't have to do the same work every day. We do it once a week. And then therefore we would do the payouts on the weekly schedule as well. It's not implemented, but it's something that we're thinking about it. And so we think that is a good thing because you could go more detailed, we can catch more cheaters, and it's a cleaner cadence. And with that will come a uptime requirements for the flowers to make sure that you don't turn on, validate your stuff, and then walk off for 6 days. There'll have to be some sort of uptime. We think, for Max's suggestion, 95% might be a good uptime requirement, which is about 8.5 hours of downtime for that week. And we also think that if it's your first week coming online, then you would be exempted from that because you won't be there for a fractional week. That's like a condensed recap of what we think we might be doing. Is there a way to leverage existing BB logs for them to know where they should have coverage at their current GPS location and force themselves in and out of airplane mode? On the BBs do a version of that now to try to maximize the attach rate. It doesn't load the map of where it should be doing it, but that's a great idea of something that we potentially could implement on once we do the open source and the API openness. Yeah, daily was a little. We want to make it as valuable of a network as possible, which means we want it to be high quality. And so daily was a good start, and maybe that's not needed.
I think one thing we should be clear about though is even if we go on a daily schedule, if people
Weekly, you mean?
or sorry, even if we go on a weekly schedule, if other people are validating every single day in that week and you only validate once in that week, the other people are going to get a larger share of their. Yeah, that's how the picks work.
Well,
Not for
TBD, we got to figure out what's happening on that. I think that the understanding that you have and I have are different. And so we should mind meld on that and have a written up. But what I got from this call is that overwhelmingly people like the weekly validation schedule. Some people don't like the weekly payout, which unfortunately goes hand in hand with that. And I'd like to understand more why they don't like the weekly payout. But I think the weekly validation is a plus. How about dropping pollen? Will it still be 100 hexes daily with a weekly payment? I think it might be because I think the pollen drops should be something that you're just doing as you're going about your day, as opposed to going out and specifically doing something different. The validation is more targeted towards aspects. So I think that's where we want to give you a little leeway because you're doing an explicit action for mapping versus the pollen drop is intended to be like, this is where you go and this is where you should have coverage. And so it's more of a behavioral intent of where the coverage should match when you want to have a network to cover that. Is there an estimated time frame on when the weekly adjustment will occur? No.
Not at the moment.
But it sounds like it's going up in the priority of things that we're doing because it sounds like a positive.
It does sound like that.
Yeah. If there are other suggestions people have to make the network better, we're open to it. We think this is a good forum for that. In fact, like submit your suggestions in the Q&A. This is a great way for us to hear about it. You have the whole team paying attention. Does the blink actually provide higher output power, or is it going to be nerfed by the SAS, same as the BC? Well, everything can be nerfed by the SAS, and that's just part of what is done. So it's not exceeding the ERP, which is the maximum, effective power of the radio. I believe they have higher sensitivity antennas, and so with less power output, you can get more, receive sensitivity and therefore increase the range. And that's, I think, what's happening with them. We should have Blink on for a little jam sesh and have them chat about that. That's actually not a bad idea. We should do it with all the vendors. Each come to a community meeting and talk about how awesome their stuff is.
Most will be here next meeting.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so we should keep and do more of that. Yeah, so most of what's coming in the next community meeting. Bring your questions. I think that'll be a great way to get your learn on. BBs should be daily, flowers should be weekly. Okay, if you want to validate more, you're getting paid for it. Interesting. Okay. Sorry. Weekly validation will work for attachments, right? Yeah. I think I agree with this, though. If the rules validation flowers get this entangle, 30% of the rewards actually go and feels high. Max states, well, I was trying to communicate earlier. Yes, weekly validations would be so nice. I can validate my 3 VCs in Santa Barbara every day. So, yeah, no, we want to make it where you guys are like focused on deploying the network and making it good, not just pointlessly doing validations. Okay, I think we're reaching the end of questions. Oh, Max Adrian typing. Wait, Killer Bee. Yeah, Killer Bee is still in progress. Prototypes more coming soon. I think not next community meeting, but the one after that, we should have an update on Killer Bee. It's more substantial. Okay, going once. Okay, you still want more data. The flowers shouldn't go to 0 because I go out of town. All right. Let's move to hourly valuations. It should be in every milliseconds. Every unit of time should be measured in milliseconds, and you should know if you're being validated right now. Okay, on that note, thank you, and have a great week, and we'll talk at the next meeting. Thanks, everyone.